Hello, fancy that. Two shows in the space of about 2 minutes. We've just left one and we're back on another. Dave Reed from Sky Sports News, my good friend and one of my favourite people in the world, back with me to preview Everton against Aston Villa in the Premier League on Wednesday. We are recording this show on Monday. I don't think there's been any form of conference or anything yet with team news. If there is, I've completely missed it. But anyway, we're recording this show on a Monday for those not watching live and listening or watching back. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to use the code TVV20, you'll get 20% off everything Luke have to offer. So, David, a long time no speak. Let's preview the game.
No time for an outfit change.
No time for outfit changes. No, you've had no time to even text about outfits today. You've been so
I've
busy.
been slammed today. Absolutely
Yeah,
slammed.
it's been a busy day for Dave Reed. I'll again mention at the start of the show, for those that have watched two shows live and back to back now, I'm going to be fed up of hearing this, but Dave and myself are on TV together tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock and midday, Sky Sports News for Good Morning Transfers and Transfer Talk. So come and come and watch us, whether that be on YouTube or Sky Sports News if you have the subscription. Right then, Dave, I've put in the title very hastily before we came on. This could be the worst time to play Everton at Goodison Park in years. I think that's a genuine statement, because that atmosphere on Wednesday at Goodison with David Moyes returning after, I don't even know how many years away it is. It must be over a decade away from Everton. That's going to be a really, really big thing, and something that I think will galvanise the supporters and potentially the players as well. Hopefully he hasn't had enough time to input his ideas, is the only hope I get.
I mean, he was in the Everton training ground yesterday, and he will have had a good 3-4 days of build up to this. So I think he will have had enough time with the players to have made an impact. There's no doubt Dave Moyes' return will be an added spice, an added factor to this game. If it's going to be the only storyline building up to it, and it's going to be a night where Villa will have to control their emotions and not let the emotion of Goodison Park take over the game. It's going to be a night for cool heads.
Yeah, I mean, there's a parallel universe where David Moyes spent some time managing Aston Villa as well. I know he was very, very friendly with Randy Lerner, and I think when Martin O'Neill left, I think ideally Randy Lerner would have appointed David Moyes, but it didn't happen, and he stayed at Everton. And there's no doubting. I think David Moyes is a good manager, in fairness. Great job at West Ham, great job at Everton. Took some difficult challenges on as well in between. But, we're saying now West Ham haven't exactly been flying since he left, and Everton have never been as good as they were when David Moyes was there. So I think undoubtedly he's a really good manager. He may not always play the most attractive brand of football, but he plays effective football. And that's what he'll look to do against Villa, because for him, he'll know that's a hard game. Villa, although Villa's away form is stinking at the moment, he'll know that's a hard game. Villa coming to Goodison Park, but he's good at what he does, and he makes it. I really think this is a difficult game now for Villa. We had Potter on Friday. Luckily, we managed to bypass that and get through it. But with the new manager bounce, he's not being kind to Villa at the moment. With the first game for two new managers, it's almost unheard of, I would say.
Yeah, and I think the Everton fans that I've spoken to since David Moyes were announced have been a little bit almost, okay, yeah, let's do it, because there's probably not that many better candidates around and available and out of work, and that was key for Everton. They didn't want to have to spend money on getting another manager out of a contract elsewhere in order for them to become first-team manager at Everton. So the fact that David Moyes was out of work was another thing in his favour. And I think from the new ownership's point of view, from the Freakins' point of view, it's a little bit of an easy win to bring him back. And often when a manager goes back to somewhere they've previously managed, it's often because something's gone wrong for them elsewhere, or they need to right a wrong somewhere along the line, whether it was at the club previously or something that's happened to them recently. But it's almost an unusual situation where David Moyes is coming back to Everton and his stock is right now probably at the highest point it's been since he left Everton the first time around, simply because of the achievements that he created at West Ham and what he did there, bringing them that European trophy and consistent finishes around the top 10 as well, which is something that I think West Ham fans probably took for granted a little bit, because of the clamour that they wanted a better style of football for the situation that Everton are in right now. It feels like David Moyes is the perfect manager. I know he's gone on record and said he didn't want his next job to be someone in a relegation battle. I do think Everton are in a relegation battle. Actually, I think some of the players at his disposal, I don't think he'll find it difficult to raise the level. In my opinion, that group of players is better than what they've shown this season. That is a better group of players. They've just, for whatever reason it is, they've not achieved the level they should be at. I'm not saying that's a top 10 squad, but it's definitely not a relegation squad when you compare it to some of the other teams that are around that bottom three. So I actually think David Moyes should have an impact fairly quickly in raising the level of some of those players at Everton.
Okay, we've got Rob Willock here saying, first time catching you live from Singapore and back-to-back shows. Cheers, guys. I mean, it's a great time to be Rob Willock. The 4 o'clock till 5 o'clock window UK time has worked absolutely brilliantly for him, hasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, thanks for watching. Great to have you with us.
I mean, Richard Edwards here, I've just had a look and I can't see anything, so you might have to clarify a bit stronger. But he's saying Marlin has signed. Don't know whether that's actually happened yet. I've not seen that anyway. I've had nothing through on my phone, so we'll bear with us and we'll see whether that is actually true. Obviously, it's very close to being done, the fee being agreed. You'd imagine terms would have been sorted out a week or so ago, but I've not seen anything to say that he has signed. I had a great point to make about David Moyes, and it's completely left me now in the interim there, just welcoming people from Singapore and checking whether Richard Edwards was lying or not. And I've completely
you were talking about David Moyes possibly being a West Ham manager, but he could have gone back to Everton earlier as well. I mean, the way that Farhad Moshiri ran that club was difficult, I would say, for some of the people that worked at Everton, because one day Farhad Moshiri would decide one thing and then he'd come in the next morning and do a complete U-turn and go down a different route. So, and also you would say that his decision was absolutely totally final, and it was very difficult for other people to persuade him otherwise, whether that was about manager decisions or spending money on players. So David Moyes, I think, could have gone back before Carlo Ancelotti got the job. And for all intents and purposes, that was pretty much nailed on to happen. And then suddenly Farhad Moshiri got hold of Carlo Ancelotti and managed to persuade him to come to Everton. So, there were opportunities. There have been opportunities for David Moyes to go back there. He hasn't, and now he's back. And I think from Everton's point of view, to get them to the end of the season, to get them into that new stadium as a Premier League football club is absolutely vital.
I remembered what I was going to say.
That's why I thought it'd be better.
Yeah, excellent work from you as a co-host.
See, I could see you sinking there.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable from you, saving me while I was drowning. I would go as far as to say, if Moyes hadn't been available, I actually don't think they'd sack Dyche, because I think they'd have stayed up with Dyche, but I think they think they're more likely to stay up with Moyes, and it's got the pulls on the heartstrings, and they want it to be safe moving into the new stadium next season and be stable for a few years in that new stadium. I think if Moyes hadn't been available, though, I think they might have stuck with Dyche. Do you agree with me?
My hunch would be that they wouldn't have stuck with Dyche. I think
it's risky to have moved away from that, because again, I do think he would have kept them up.
I think Everton had a really difficult run of fixtures. Just before Christmas, they played a lot of the so-called big sides in the Premier League. I think the new owners were looking at that run of fixtures and thinking, let's see how they come through this, and then we'll need to make a decision on the manager. The fact is that they were very interested in Gran Potter, who's been out of work for a long time. They held discussions with him. And I think the Friedkins were ready and would have liked to perhaps have appointed Gran Potter. But as soon as it became clear that Potter was favouring West Ham, I think that made the decision for Everton that they weren't going to pursue that. And then it was about, well, what sort of shape is the team in? And they've been so poor, particularly trying to score goals. And for new owners coming in,
that's at Villa Park, though, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but I mean, they want to try and, as much as new owners coming in, they have kind of got a clean slate with supporters. That can very quickly turn, and it was close, if not had become toxic for Everton supporters with Sean Dyche, particularly after the Bournemouth game. So I think from their point of view, with David Moyes being available, it made sense to make the change. I'm not totally enamoured with the way it was dealt with, how it was done, and Dyche taking press conferences for games, and then the day of the game he's sacked and new people are coming in. But we're in this situation, and now it's up to David Moyes to try and get them out of it.
Yeah, and Richard Edwards says here, I think we'll have too much for them, especially with John Duran coming back into the squad. I guess that's the main talking point. In Duran's 3-game absence for his suspension, which should never have happened, Dave, would you say Ollie Watkins has done enough across the 3 games to keep John Duran out?
Difficult to say yes. However, I think for this particular game, I would be starting Ollie Watkins.
Agreed.
In this particular game. And I think Duran can make more of an impact coming on in this particular game. I think, I mean, I have a theory around some of the players who have been poor this season. And I think they've all suffered from how well England did last summer. I don't think really you can pick too many of that England team that have come into this season and have absolutely lit it up. And I think the fact is that the players that played in that final against Spain and the semi-final against the Netherlands have hardly had any time off. They've come back. Some of them have then picked up injuries, probably because they've not had that much time off and they've come straight back in and they're being asked to perform immediately. And I think Ollie Watkins' form has suffered because of that. For me anyway, I don't think there's any other particular reason for him not getting back to that level. I think he will get back to the level that we've seen. And I in my opinion, I blame it on the way how far England got, because you've seen it with some of the other players there, like Phil Foden, who has not reached the level that he should have. Even maybe Jude Bellingham has not reached the level this season. You know, some of England's big players from last summer have not performed this year. So yes, Duran coming back is a great thing for Villa. Great thing for Unai Emery to have him available. Do I think he starts against Everton? No, I don't.
I think that's a really, really savvy point from you, Dave. And Russell Handy agrees with me. Says it's a great point with the Euro hangovers. Might explain low points levels in the Prem too. Saka's now injured, and you referenced that, so you can discount him. Probably only Cole Palmer from the summer, and even he's dipped a little bit recently from his impeccably high standards. Still playing very well, but he's impeccably high standards. He's not been scoring and assisting as much as he was. I think that's a really, really good point, Dave. So give yourself a pat on the back for that one.
Oh, cheers. I don't make many of them, so I've got to take this one.
I think I've referenced it with regards to Watkins before. They didn't have a pre-season and factored in that no player in that England who was in that England team has really gone on to do much.
I don't
think Bellingham certainly only just started scoring again.
Declan Rice hasn't. No. You know, Trippier, Walker not had amazing seasons. Gay's been okay, but Palace have struggled.
Concer's dropped as well. Dropped off, I would say, a little.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, but he set such incredibly high standards last year.
Yeah, he does.
It is hard to get back to get there, but I mean that's my opinion. I think all of those England players have struggled this year because of what happened last summer.
It's a really interesting point, Dave. Well done to you. Selection-wise, I mean, it's difficult to judge Everton because we don't know what Moyes will be thinking. But from a Villa perspective and an ex-Everton perspective, you would expect Amadou Onana to line up against his old club. We talked about him in the podcast that we've just done, so do go back and check out that show if you haven't done already. Do you expect him to start in the middle with Tielemans in the 10, perhaps Rodgers from the left, Bailey from the right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think you've nailed it. I think that's exactly what Villa will do. I think Onana's physical presence is going to be important in this game. I think his ability to keep the ball as well. And you feel like Everton are going to come out hard and come out early at Villa. And I think someone like Onana, who is so good at shielding the ball, so good at taking the ball under pressure, I think he's going to be key. And I think Tielemans offers that as well. But I think he can offer that a little bit higher up the pitch and help Villa retain possession higher up the pitch. So for me, I think that's probably what Villa will do. Onana starting in the middle with Kamara, who, is outstanding. We all know his qualities. And then, Rodgers from the left, Bailey from the right, and Watkins and Tielemans in those front positions.
Defensively, we're looking at the Steven Gerrard axis of Matty Cash, Konsa, Mings and Luca Dean. Luca Dean also going back to his former club, and we hope that Martinez will be fitting goal.
Yeah, I think there's still a question mark over Martinez, but we'll find out a little bit more following the news conference, which I think is scheduled for tomorrow. I think my hunch is that Martinez will be available. And then, defensively, there's not too many options because I feel like this month is going to be a month of speculation around Diego Carlos. So, do Villa want to kind of put him in and risk an injury? He's not been a player who's been consistently fit, though. So, do Villa then risk a potential transfer falling apart because he picks up an injury? So, I can't see him being involved that much over the next couple of weeks. As soon as January's out of the way and he's still here or he's not here, then I think we'll see him involved if he is still here. But
won't play if he's not here. We can safely say that.
Well, we can definitely say that. Great point again from me. I thought there. Yeah,
really good.
But I think it will be that back four that we'll see, and hopefully we'll get a clean sheet, eh?
Yeah, I just thought of another. Ross Barkley, of course, another former Everton player. I think we said last time that there's so many ex-Villa / Everton players in this game when they take place. Barkley's obviously out for 3 weeks, so he won't be involved. Ashley Young could be involved for Everton as well. Is that where the former players ends? I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm talking to former players. I guarantee David. I don't know whether he's confirmed his backroom staff for Everton yet, but I guarantee he'll get a few Everton old boys involved. I expect Leighton Baines to be promoted to like assistant or first team coach. Sneaky suspicion for Phil Neville as well. Obviously, was his assistant at Manchester United, or one of his assistants at Manchester United. I reckon he might go back in at Everton as well. Is there anything else you want to cover for this preview, Dave, or are we all covered off and we can do our hot / ice cold takes?
Just that I really like Iliman Ndiaye. I think he's a great player, and he reminds me a little bit of Jack Grealish, the way he carries the ball, and I think he's an X factor player, and I think David Moyes will really enjoy working with him, and he's someone that Villa have got to keep a careful eye on, because if he's allowed a little bit of room, he can definitely create something for Everton. So he'd be one to watch. I really like him.
Yeah, a few people are referencing Tim Iroegbunam. I think he's injured at the moment. Hasn't played for Everton for a while, has he? But yes, another former player there. Let's finish then with the hot / freezing cold takes. Dave Reid, have you got one lined up?
I mean, I always get to this bit and then have to think on my feet. So it's total panic.
Yeah. For you, isn't it?
Total panic. I'm going to go Watkins to score in a 1-1 draw.
Ooh, decent record Watkins has got against Everton, I think. If you look at the stats, I believe he's got a good record against them. I'm going to go a bit more niche. Do go back and watch the podcast, as I said, because we did talk about this player in the podcast. Oh, Lewis Dobbin as well from Russell Handy. It's a good shout. Just gone on loan to Norwich, of course. Emi Buendia has got a brilliant record against Everton as well. I think he'd scored 3 games running, or 3 in 4 before his injury last season. So I'm going to go for Emi Buendia to come on and score a goal.
Spicy.
That's my prediction ahead of this one. As we'd say every week, we've very rarely got anything right in these predictions, if anything ever. In fact, I don't know. Someone might know in the chat whether we've ever got anything right. But it doesn't feel like we very often have a hot take, really, does it?
No, I feel like we're way off the mark many weeks in a row.
Yeah. I mean, more preparation going into yours might help, because, as you know, you are like a rabbit in the headlights when I ask that question, and I ask you every single show. So you think you might, maybe for 1 week, just maybe prepare something, because you know you're going to be asked. But
okay, next time I will think of something.
Yeah, because we'll have an Arsenal preview, won't we? Leading up to the weekend. So maybe between now and then you can come up with the hot / freezing cold take, Dave. That would be good.
See how we go, eh? Busy week ahead.
A busy week ahead, and we'll say again, Dave and I on the telly tomorrow morning, Sky Sports News, and on Sky Sports YouTube. I don't know which variant of Sky Sports YouTube it's on, but it is on one of them, 9 o'clock and midday, and we'll be talking about transfers with our good friends Olivia Bazaglo and James Savundra as well, who already knows what he's wearing because he's planned it and he's told us in WhatsApp. Right then, Dave, thank you very much for doing back-to-back shows with me. I really appreciate it. It's always lovely to talk to you. And I will say again, one of my favourite people in the world. I absolutely love you to bits. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper. And if you want to use the code TVV20, you'll get 20% off everything Luke have to offer. Thanks to those that have joined us live. Much appreciated. And be people there that have sat through 2 shows in a row as well. So thank you very much for doing that. If you're listening back via audio or video, do all the things I bang on about every single week. The main one for me, please, reviews and 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, please. That would be much appreciated. For those going to Goodison, travel well. Don't forget to watch Dave and I on the telly. And as ever, a big, massive up the Villa.